They need your reaction. Your anger feeds them. Your fear validates them. Your attention sustains them. But what happens when you give them nothing? Most people try to fight narcissists. They argue, they defend, they explain themselves, and they lose. Because every word you speak is ammunition. Every emotion you show is supply. Machiavelli understood something most men never learn. Power isn't always loud. Sometimes the most dangerous weapon is silence wrapped in indifference. This is the art of becoming boring, not weak, not passive, strategically invisible. And when you master it, you become untouchable, the narcissist's hidden dependency. Let me tell you what narcissists will never admit. They are parasites of attention, not in the way you think. They don't just want you to like them. They need you to react to them, positive or negative, it doesn't matter. What matters is that you prove they exist. Think about it. A narcissist walks into a room. They say something provocative. They insult someone. They brag. They create drama. Why? Because in that moment, every eye turns to them. Every conversation shifts. Every emotion in the room bends toward their gravitational pull. And for a brief second, they feel real. This is their curse. They cannot generate their own sense of self, so they extract it from you. Your outrage confirms they have power. Your admiration confirms they have value. Your fear confirms they matter. Without your response, they are nothing, an empty suit standing in an empty room. Machiavelli wrote about princes who ruled through spectacle, grand displays, public executions, dramatic speeches. He understood that these men needed witnesses. Power performed in isolation is no power at all. The narcissist is the same. They are actors on a stage, and you are the audience. But here's the secret they'll never tell you. The moment you stop watching, the show ends. Why fighting them makes you weaker. Let's be clear about something. When you argue with a narcissist, you're not fighting to win. You're fighting to survive. And survival mode makes you stupid. They say something that cuts you. You feel your chest tighten. Your mind races for a response, something sharp, something that proves them wrong. You deliver it, and they smile. Not because you won, but because you played the game. You gave them exactly what they wanted. Engagement. The moment you respond with emotion, you lose three things. First, your energy. You're now thinking about them, replaying the conversation in your head, crafting better comebacks for next time. They live rent-free in your mind. Second, your frame. Frame is everything in power dynamics. The person who controls the emotional tone of an interaction controls the interaction. When you react, you've accepted their frame. You're now operating in their world by their rules, and in their world, they always win. Third, your time. Time is the only resource you can't get back. Every minute spent thinking about a narcissist is a minute not spent building your life. They know this. They want you obsessed. They want you distracted. They want you focused on them instead of your purpose. Machiavelli advised princes to conserve their strength. Don't fight battles you don't need to fight. Don't engage enemies who have nothing you want. The narcissist has nothing you want. Not their approval, not their validation, not their acknowledgement. So why are you fighting? The gray rock method explained. There's a technique psychologists call the gray rock method. It's simple. Become boring, emotionally flat, conversationally dull, utterly unremarkable, like a gray rock on the side of the road. No one stops to examine a gray rock. No one gets excited about it. No one takes pictures of it. They just walk past. That's what you become. But most people misunderstand this technique. They think it's about being rude, or cold, or obviously dismissive. It's not. That still gives the narcissist supply. Because rudeness is a reaction. Coldness is an emotion. Dismissal is engagement. True gray rock is neutral. Not warm, not cold. Not friendly, not hostile, just nothing. Imagine talking to someone who gives you nothing to work with. You tell them about your promotion. They say, "Oh, that's nice." You complain about your problems. They say, "That sounds tough." You insult them. They say, "Okay." No matter what you throw at them, they remain the same. Calm, polite, unaffected. It's maddening. And that's the point. Because a narcissist feeds on emotional variance. They want highs and lows, drama and resolution, conflict and submission. When you give them flatline consistency, they starve. But here's where it gets interesting. Most people can't maintain this. They slip, they get frustrated and show it. They get angry and react, and the narcissist sees that crack and exploits it. So becoming boring isn't about one conversation. It's about consistent, disciplined emotional control over time. It's about training yourself to feel nothing when they speak, not because you're suppressing your emotions, but because they genuinely no longer matter enough to trigger you. The power of being uninteresting. Let me tell you about a man named Marcus, not his real name. Marcus worked in corporate finance. Sharp mind, ambitious, capable. He had a manager who was textbook narcissist, public humiliations, credit stealing, constant undermining. For months, Marcus fought back. He defended himself in meetings. He documented everything. He tried to expose the manager's incompetence to upper leadership. Nothing worked. The manager was too good at the game. Too charismatic with the executives, too skilled at reframing every situation. Marcus was losing. Marcus changed tactics. He stopped defending himself. When the manager insulted him in meetings, Marcus would nod and say, "I'll take that into consideration." When the manager tried to bait him into arguments, Marcus would respond with, "You might be right." When the manager took credit for his work, Marcus said nothing. At first, the manager escalated, louder insults, more aggressive provocations, but Marcus remained flat, agreeable without being eager, present without being engaged, like a piece of furniture. Within 3 months, the manager stopped targeting him. Why? Because Marcus had become boring. There was no fight, no drama, no emotional payoff. The manager moved on to someone more reactive, someone who would give him the supply he needed. And Marcus, he kept his head down, did his work, built relationships quietly with people who mattered. 2 years later, the manager was fired for alienating too many people. Marcus got promoted. This is the long game. Narcissists burn bright and fast. They make enemies. They overplay their hand. But if you're boring, you're not a threat. You're not even worth their time. And while they're destroying themselves trying to control everyone else, you're building power in silence. The psychology behind narcissistic supply. Let's go deeper. What exactly is narcissistic supply? It's not just attention. It's emotional energy that validates the narcissist's false self. See, narcissists operate from what psychologists call a false self. It's a constructed identity, the successful businessman, the devoted mother, the misunderstood genius, whatever mask they wear. But underneath that mask is a void, deep insecurity, shame, fear of worthlessness. They can't face it. So they build this elaborate persona and force the world to validate it. Your admiration feeds the false self. When you praise them, you're saying, yes, you are who you pretend to be. But here's the twisted part. Your hatred also feeds it. Because when you hate them, you're still acknowledging their power. You're still confirming they matter enough to make you feel something. What they cannot tolerate is indifference. Indifference says, you don't matter enough to have an opinion about. That's death to a narcissist. Machiavelli wrote about the importance of reputation. He said a prince must be feared or loved but never despised. Narcissists operate the same way. They need you to feel something strong. Love or hate, it doesn't matter. But when you become boring, you give them something worse than contempt. You give them irrelevance. And relevance is the oxygen they breathe. Cut off the supply and they suffocate. Practical techniques for strategic boredom. So how do you actually do this? Let's get tactical. The single sentence response technique. When a narcissist tries to provoke you, respond with one sentence. Not two, not a paragraph. One sentence, flat delivery. Minimal information. I hear you. That's one perspective. Thanks for sharing. Then stop talking. The silence that follows will be unbearable for them. They'll try to fill it. They'll ask questions. They'll escalate. You remain quiet. Let them perform to an empty room. The broken record technique. Pick a phrase and repeat it. No matter what they say, you say the same thing. I'm not interested in discussing this. They push. I'm not interested in discussing this. They insult you. I'm not interested in discussing this. It's psychological warfare through monotony. You become a wall, and walls don't argue. They just stand there. The emotional flatline technique, this is the hardest one. Control your facial expressions. No smirking, no eye rolling, no tight jaw, neutral face. Relaxed shoulders, steady breathing. Narcissists read micro expressions. They're trained to detect when they've gotten under your skin. Don't give them the satisfaction. Practice this in front of a mirror. Say something that would normally make you angry. Watch your face. Notice the tension. Then relax it again and again until neutral is your default. The information diet technique. Stop sharing anything real with them. Your dreams, your fears, your plans. Everything you say becomes ammunition. When they ask about your life, be vague. Work is fine. Nothing new. Same as usual. Give them nothing to weaponize. The strategic exit technique. You don't need to announce your departure. You don't need to explain why you're done. You just fade. Respond slower to messages. Keep conversations shorter. Become less available, not dramatically, gradually, until one day you're just not in their orbit anymore. And they won't even notice until it's too late. What happens when they lose interest? Here's what most people don't understand. When you become boring, the narcissist doesn't just stop bothering you. They replace you. You think this would feel like victory, and it does. But there's a strange emptiness that comes with it too. Because for months or years, they were the center of your emotional life. You woke up thinking about them. You went to bed replaying conversations. Your identity became partially defined by resisting them. When they move on, you realize something uncomfortable. Part of you misses the intensity, not them, but the drama, the purpose, the clear enemy. This is normal. Your nervous system became adapted to chaos. Now you're in calm, and calm feels wrong. Machiavelli warned about this. He said soldiers who spend years at war struggle in peacetime. They don't know who they are without the fight. So when the narcissist discards you, don't celebrate too quickly. Sit with the discomfort. Acknowledge that part of you was addicted to the conflict. Then let it go. Because what comes next is better. You get to rebuild your life without someone constantly tearing it down. You get to think your own thoughts, feel your own feelings, make your own choices. Freedom is quieter than war, but it's also deeper. The dark side of becoming boring. Now let's talk about something no one else will tell you. There's a cost to this strategy. When you train yourself to be emotionally flat around narcissists, sometimes you can't turn it off. You become so good at suppressing your reactions that you stop feeling things intensely altogether. Joy becomes muted. Excitement becomes rare. Connection becomes difficult. This is the price of armor. It protects you, but it also isolates you. I've seen men use the gray rock method so effectively that they became gray rocks in every area of life. With their partners, with their children, with themselves. They forgot how to be vulnerable, because vulnerability is what the narcissist exploited, so they killed it. But here's the truth. Vulnerability is also what makes you human. It's what creates intimacy. It's what builds trust. It's what lets you feel alive. So if you're going to use this strategy, you need to be precise, gray rock with the narcissist, but stay human with everyone else. Don't let their poison turn you into them. Don't become so defended that you can't let good people in. The goal isn't to become emotionless. The goal is to become selective about who deserves your emotions. Machiavelli's ultimate lesson. Machiavelli didn't write about kindness. He wrote about power, and power, according to him, is about understanding reality. The reality is this: some people cannot be reasoned with. Some people cannot be fixed. Some people will drain you until you're empty. The moral thing to do isn't always the strategic thing to do. And sometimes survival requires you to set morality aside, not forever, but long enough to escape. Becoming boring isn't noble. It's not heroic. It's not even satisfying. But it works. And in Machiavelli's world, what works is what matters. He said it's better to be feared than loved if you can't be both. But he also said it's better to be invisible than either. Because when you're invisible, you control the game. You see everything. You reveal nothing. And while everyone else fights for the spotlight, you move freely in the shadows. The narcissist needs the stage. Let them have it. You don't need applause. You need freedom. Recognizing when you're ready to walk away. There comes a moment in every toxic dynamic where you realize something. You don't need to win. You don't need to make them understand. You don't need the last word. You just need to leave. For some people, that moment comes after years. For others, it never comes at all. But when it does, you'll feel it. It's not dramatic. It's not angry. It's just done. Like flipping a switch. One day, you care what they think. The next day, you don't. That's when being boring becomes effortless. Because you're not pretending to be unaffected. You genuinely are. They can insult you, and you feel nothing. They can try to provoke you, and it's like watching a stranger perform. They can beg for your attention, and you're already thinking about something else. This is what Machiavelli called virtù, not virtue, virtù. The ability to adapt to circumstances with ruthless clarity. It's not about being good or bad. It's about being effective. And sometimes the most effective thing you can do is disappear. The long game. Here's what happens over time. While the narcissist is burning bridges and making enemies, you're quietly building your life. They're focused on controlling perceptions. You're focused on actual results. They're exhausting themselves maintaining their image. You're investing in skills, relationships, and assets. Years pass. They're still playing the same games with different people. You've moved on to an entirely different level. And here's the beautiful part. You don't even think about them anymore. One day, someone mentions their name, and you feel nothing. Not anger, not bitterness, not even satisfaction, just indifference. That's when you know you've won. Not because you defeated them, but because they no longer exist in your world. Before we end, I need to tell you something important. Not every situation allows you to become boring. If you're in physical danger, leave. If you're being financially controlled, get legal help. If you're isolated with no support system, reach out. Strategic boredom works when you have options, when you can create distance, when the narcissist can't physically harm you. But if you're trapped, this strategy won't save you. You need intervention. Machiavelli wrote about knowing when to fight and when to retreat. Sometimes retreat isn't an option, and in those moments you need allies. Don't confuse tactical withdrawal with surrender. Know the difference. Closing, the man who became invisible. Let me leave you with this. There's an old story about a king who feared assassination. He hired guards, built walls, created elaborate security, but he lived in constant paranoia. And one day, a wise man visited him. The king asked, "How do I protect myself from my enemies?" The wise man said, "Stop being interesting." The king was confused. "What do you mean?" The wise man replied, "Your enemies want power, your wealth, your throne. They attack you because you have something worth taking. But if you were a peasant, no one would care." The king said, "So I should give up everything?" The wise man smiled. "No, you should make them believe you have. And that's the lesson. You don't have to actually become nothing. You just have to appear as nothing to the people who would destroy you. Keep your power quiet, your success private, your happiness hidden. Let the narcissists chase the spotlight. Let them exhaust themselves performing for strangers. You'll be building an empire in the dark, and by the time they realize you were never powerless, you'll be untouchable. This is the way of Machiavelli. Not loud, not flashy, not obvious, strategic, patient, invisible. The narcissist needs you to see them. You don't need them to see you. Remember that, and become the gray rock they can't break, the shadow they can't catch, the ghost they'll forget ever existed. That's how you win, not by fighting, by disappearing.